what's the growth spurt, what worked, what did not work?
A couple of things that have worked really well for me is a lot of people make the mistake of just thinking that, it's a place to publish your CV. It's not that. What really works on LinkedIn is sharing your authentic self.
What kind of content do you think works?
I've found that video works the best.
And what kind of content was more engaging to get more views? TikTok Reels and YouTube Reels styles content being published now on LinkedIn.
Yep. Almost create that sort of snackable content that people can just flick through on their phone.
What's the content on LinkedIn which makes you feel cringeworthy?
Well, I tend to unfollow that sort of stuff. So
what do you unfollow? What kind of content? Many selfies are too many selfies.
If it's rubbish content, it won't get any engagement. So
what are the tips and tricks to clean your feed to be minimalistic and to be appropriate for your consumption?
If you see content that you like, post a comment. That's telling LinkedIn that you're interested in that kind of stuff, and it will show you more content like that. In the next 5 years, 300 million jobs will be lost to AI.
How do you crack the code? Welcome, Nathanial. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Great to be here with you again.
After a few years, I think 3 years almost.
Yeah, lots changed in the last 3 years.
Yes. Thank you for coming around, and things have changed in your life, and then you're now a dad, and more.
Yeah.
Could you recover us from what has happened and share your story and then what you do and why you do it?
Sure. Well, I've been in digital marketing now for over 20 years.
Goodness me.
And so when I started, it was all about SEO and then later Google AdWords. And, when something's relatively new, you can kind of hack your way to the top of Google. And when AdWords first came along, we were getting clicks for 50 cents a pop, so you've got to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
When social media came along, I was working for a digital marketing agency in Melbourne and relatively new at the company. I was in a sales role, and I said to my employer, what's the best leads for digital marketing? And he said, medical practices, plastic surgeons, dentists, these kind of things. And so I made a list of all of the clinics in Melbourne, went around and knocked on all their doors and couldn't get past the practice manager at the front, couldn't speak to the decision maker, tried cold calling them all, the same issue. And I just started my LinkedIn profile, and I had a picture of me in a nightclub in Thailand because I used the same photo that I had in my Facebook picture on LinkedIn. And I said, I wonder if these medical practice owners are on LinkedIn. And sure enough, they were. So I contacted 10 surgeons within a week, had 6 responses, 4 meetings, and I made 1 sale. But the sale was, it was a big sale because it's an ideal client. So the following week I did twice as many, contacted 20, made 2 sales. And then it wasn't long before my boss said, hey, do you want us to hire an assistant for you so they can do all the LinkedIn stuff and then you can do all the meetings? And I became, the perceived expert in the medical world for online marketing. And not long after that, I thought to myself, well, if I've delegated what I'm doing on LinkedIn to an assistant, why can't businesses delegate their LinkedIn marketing to me? And that's when I decided to start my company. And that was 10 years ago now. And LinkedIn's just grown, I think when I started my company, it was about 300 million members. Now it's over 1 billion. So it's just grown from strength to strength, which has been great for my business.
And from a point of view of your own journey on LinkedIn, your own growth in the following and all of that. So do you start from the Bangkok photo to what it is now? Could you just give us a snapshot that how it has happened in what stages and what's the growth spurt? What progressed the growth spurt? What worked? What did not work in terms of growing your base?
Well, a lot of people don't remember this, but when LinkedIn first started, you couldn't post content on there. It was very much designed as a recruitment tool. There was 200 people that were posting articles, guys like Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, guys like this. And it wasn't until later that LinkedIn decided that, okay, we'll actually let everyone publish content and the users can decide which content's valuable and which isn't. So when I started, it was just a networking tool. I was just connecting, sending private messages, setting appointments. Then the next thing that they introduced was articles. And so as a LinkedIn expert, I just studied, what makes an article go viral and became very successful at doing that. And then later on, they introduced images and then videos and LinkedIn Live and LinkedIn events, and now it's a full, social media platform, and you can do everything on there. I guess along the way, it's kind of been a bit of a delay behind the likes of Facebook and Instagram, so it's been quite good for organic content. Now it's starting to catch up. The ads are getting, better, and organic content doesn't get as much reach, but I think that's more to do with people are posting more on LinkedIn and there's a bit more competition.
And then what has worked for you, and then if you can talk more on the growth of your LinkedIn, individual LinkedIn profile.
Well, there's two sides to it. There's the public side, which is posting content and getting followers and that kind of thing. And it changes, all the time. A couple of things that have worked really well for me is, creating series of content. So you constantly got things to talk about. Like I've got one series called LinkedIn Heroes, where I'm interviewing entrepreneurs a bit like this, who are making an impact and publishing those interviews on LinkedIn. Another one is Monday Night Live, where I've been going live every Monday night. I actually stopped that a couple of years ago when LinkedIn changed its algorithm. So it's changing all the time. Those things work really well. But to be honest with you, where I've made all of the money has been in private messaging, behind the scenes, finding ideal types of target audience and setting appointments with them. Sure, the content helps because it builds my credibility and they see me as a thought leader, but when I direct message and set appointments, that's really where I see the conversions.
And could you talk more on that? What is LinkedIn for, and what is it is not for? What it is good for, and what is it is not good for?
I think it's a networking tool. A lot of people make the mistake of just thinking that it's a place to publish your CV. It's not that. It's a social media site. So your profile, should be a little bit different to a CV. It's something that you're constantly updating. There needs to be third-party social proof and recommendations on there. And I think you should be keeping the profile fresh and the content fresh. A lot of people go onto LinkedIn. I did a talk at UWA, I think it was 2 nights ago. And a lot of the students, hesitant to post on there. Not many of them are posting at all because they're very nervous about posting in a professional capacity. And I encourage them to not worry too much about being professional, because I think what really works on LinkedIn is sharing your authentic self. And I think the more that you can show up your personality, which, people get on LinkedIn and they're like, we've got to create this persona and be really professional. So they cut out all of their individual traits, which actually would make them stand out. So I think that's a big mistake.
What do you see, because on that, the fine line between authentic self and TikTok kind of style content and professional content, where do you draw the line in terms of authentic self being, which side of social media it should lean towards?
Well, I think you've got to
create that value for the viewers.
Exactly. You've got to be adding value, right? So there's no point just posting selfies for the sake of it or, a video of your cat. I think it's got to have some sort of message there, but then if you can tie in the personality, the authenticity, the entertainment, it'll make a big difference. I mean, I was thinking about it when I was speaking to the guys at UWA, and I think if I had to put my finger on one of the reasons why my content has done so well over the years, it's showing that authentic side to myself. And it's not all some of the things I say might not be that funny, but at least it's a little bit entertaining, right? It's a little bit of personality there. It's not your average stock standard 100% professional post.
Fair enough. So that authentic self has led you to create that imagery and subject matter expertise and creating a regular piece of content. And what kind of content do you think works? The different style of contents you can publish on LinkedIn? One is articles, one is videos, pictures, and a few other things. So do you mind sharing your views on each style of content which can be published?
Sure.
And what are they good and not good for?
Yeah. Well, LinkedIn have come out and publicly said that they prefer creators that do a mixture of different styles of content. So I think it's good to do a variety. I've found that video works the best for me, and it doesn't necessarily these days always get the most engagement or the most views, but the views that it does get, it builds a much deeper relationship with the audience. To be honest, the most viral posts at the moment are images with text. But that doesn't build as deep a relationship as videos. Copywriting's become really important on LinkedIn. I mean, to be honest, the best creators, the guys that are getting a lot more views than I am, are really good copywriters. That's what's doing really well.
And what about people try to create that, and some people who want to be presented as subject matter experts on LinkedIn, they write articles and then blogs. And then there's an article section. You can publish multiple articles. You have a header image, and you can write a piece of article as long as you can. No, I think there's a limitation on words, but that creates a different layer of a funneling kind of an engagement with your attendees. And there's another layer of newsletter. So just talk more about these two platforms.
So the articles are fantastic, but the ones that do well are generally really well researched and longer articles. It's not just, they're very different to like a blog. Well, you can get those sort of blog posts as well, but it's a lot of people don't put the effort in that you need to make them do really well. So from my perspective, they are fantastic, but they take a long time to create a good one. You can't just plug it into ChatGPT and expect it to do well. I find that the copy that does really well is very conversational style, very different to what you would put on a website blog, and then having lots of images, data, and all that sort of stuff to make it engaging. It's still a social media site, so it just needs some personality behind it. You notice a lot of my blog post or article posts on LinkedIn are quite entertaining. A lot of the images are quite funny, and there's value there, but it's still social media style content.
And so there's another tool which LinkedIn provides us to send newsletter and then get people to subscribe on a newsletter. It's the either you are doing MailChimp or sending out emails for people to subscribe through your website, but LinkedIn has created a platform within its own ecosystem for you to have the opportunity to write newsletters, and then people subscribe and they can, it'll be shown in the feed. So when does that model work, and then for what kind of creators and what kind of professionals it will work for?
Yeah, it works. It's like it was something that was really hot when it first came out. It's a bit more saturated now, so I think it's just a matter of how good the content is, really. It's a great tool. If your content's good, people will pay attention, but otherwise they're just going to switch off, because they're going to get loads of notifications these days, because as soon as someone sets up a newsletter, it invites all of your connections to subscribe. So you very quickly can get a lot of subscribers, but that just means that everyone's subscribed to a lot of newsletters. You're going to get a load of notifications. Whether or not they're paying attention to them depends on how good the content is.
And as you said, you talked about Monday Live. Tell me your journey on Monday Live. That why did you start doing it? How long did you do it? And what was the average length of a live? And what kind of content was more engaging to get more views? And then what was the decision to stop doing it?
It's funny that we brought this up, because I'm actually thinking about starting it again now. So when LinkedIn Live first came out, not every creator could publish LinkedIn Live. I was one of the ones that was allowed to. And then what would happen is when I go live, it would notify pretty much everyone in my network that I was going live. Whereas these days, live videos tied in with LinkedIn events, which means that you've got to invite people to the event in order for them to be aware of it. You can invite up to 1,000 people a week, which is great. But I normally need 3 or 4 weeks to invite enough people along to promote an event. So to do something weekly just didn't make sense. So that's why I stopped doing it. When I was doing it, we were getting a really big audience along. And sometimes it would just be me talking to the camera and engaging with the comments that people were doing, since it was live. Sometimes I would have guests on to chat to. But I built up a really regular audience of people that would attend every week from all over the world. So it built a really strong connection with my community.
And on the, just going a bit further, so the reason why you could elaborate on the live, because you have kept it quiet for some time now.
Yeah.
And what is the trigger now to start it again? And what is the decision, and why do you think it's more value now because it's gone?
Yeah, well, it's the reason being is in the last few years, a lot more creators have come onto LinkedIn, and I've always said this will happen. I'm like, because 4 or 5 years ago, I was posting on LinkedIn and I was getting everywhere, and I was thinking to myself, there's all these really creative guys on YouTube, Instagram. Why haven't they moved to LinkedIn? Well, now they have. So there's more competition. And to be honest, I'm looking to do something different to what everyone else is doing, and no one's doing a live stream every week. And it might not be as popular as it was, but it'd be something that I could do that's unique. And that's the reason I'm thinking about doing it again. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
All the luck on the journey.
Yeah, thank you.
And most recently, there are TikTok Reels and YouTube Reels styles content being published now on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And as you, not on the phone, probably on the phone version, on the browser version, you get the way you get on, not on Facebook, they give you suggestions to watch specific Reels.
Yep.
You're getting those suggestions, I think, on the phone or the browser version, one of them. How do you see that style of content coming over, and is LinkedIn pushing that style of content?
Seems to. It's something that I've only noticed in the last few months, but I've been playing around with it. It seems to be the direction that they're trying to go. They're trying to almost create that sort of snackable content that people can just flick through on their phone. So I've changed the dimensions of my videos and our portrait. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, it's very early days, but I see that seems to be what they're playing around with.
So what I'm doing is I'm publishing two. So one is vertical, one is horizontal. So I want to see, how does that impact? I've not done it. Probably this week we are moving on to half verticals and half horizontals.
Yeah, interesting.
In terms of content, and just want to test the market.
I think that's a smart thing to do. Yeah. Because it's when you flick through, it's mainly going to show the vertical ones, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of small business owners or professionals who are using, so the different category of personas who are using LinkedIn. So I have my own views, but I want you to share what are the different category of people or personas who are using LinkedIn, and then why they are using LinkedIn.
Well, I mean, there's still only 1% of members are posting content. So, what you see in the news feed is just that portion of LinkedIn. I think there's a lot of people using it without publishing content. I always hear from people that don't post content that found a job opportunity through LinkedIn or have hired people through LinkedIn. So that's a big part of it. There are guys now that are literally making a living being influencers on LinkedIn, which is a very new thing. Being able to promote brands that have sponsored them to do posts, which is something that's obviously huge on Instagram and TikTok. And we're just starting. I mean, I've been doing that as part of what part of my content has been sponsored posts over the years, but it hasn't been my sole income. I mean, now there are guys that are doing that as their sole job function, which is very interesting. There's a lot of content about marketing, social media, AI, again, which is the competition I'm talking about. And then, there are some guys that, corporates are taking it more serious. Some of my clients that I've done training for have got, their whole teams nationwide posting content all the time, and they've got a huge advantage out of it. Sporting teams are posting on there. I mean, it's just a huge variety of different kinds of businesses that are taking advantage of the opportunity. But what I see in my newsfeed is going to be different to what you see in your newsfeed. It comes down to your network and who you're following and your interests and that kind of thing. But that's what I'm seeing.
From a point of view of somebody who's running a small to mid-sized business, and they want to understand or one is you get to see what your competitors are doing, so it's a good way to see who's doing what in your sub niche of your geography and your specialty. But from a point of view of somebody who is trying to gain traction in terms of that tagline of subject matter expertise, or where does that what's the mindset, or what kind of things one needs to be wary of to do those, to achieve that kind of a so-called subject matter expertise?
I think consistency is important. And with something we all struggle with. I haven't been 100% consistent all the time. Something I'm always working on. And my advice is to try and find your own style. I think it's important not to do what everyone else is doing. It's a lot of people go on LinkedIn and see someone else that's getting a lot of engagement and got a lot of followers, and just try and copy what they're doing. I think you got to find your own style, because being different is what will make you stand out.
And what's the content on LinkedIn which makes you feel cringeworthy?
Well, I tend to unfollow that sort of stuff, so I don't always see that kind of stuff.
But what do you unfollow? What kind of content?
Well, I try to avoid anything that is, you may or may not be familiar with engagement pods, but they're pretty rife on LinkedIn. But basically, what an engagement pod is you and I and a few others join into a chat group, and every time we post content, we share the link in the group,
and everybody
likes and comments on it. And so what it does is it creates all this inauthentic engagement. So I try to avoid content like that, because the content could be rubbish, and you get 150 likes and 70 comments from people that are just getting the likes and comments back from you. So it's a very inauthentic way to get engagement. And as a LinkedIn expert, it's very easy to see when that's going on. I just try to avoid consuming content like that. Yeah.
And what about those the content which is typically very showcasing of self all the time, every time, not adding too much value? What do you feel about that kind of content?
I mean,
and how many selfies are too many selfies?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with a selfie if there's a message there that adds value. But generally, the audience will decide whether or not that's good content. I mean, if it's rubbish content, it won't get any engagement. So it won't get many views. So you generally, if you're getting engagement and the audience is giving you positive feedback, then it's valuable content.
And there's some people who are trying to. So there is networking, as you said. LinkedIn is primarily networking, social media kind of a platform. And if the intention is to network, and if there's a genuine reason I want to reach out to you and say, hey, Nathaniel, I want to catch up with you, would love to see, and then find some opportunity, whatever. I just send you a basic introduction message. And there are some creators and some LinkedIn users who are pushing that bit more further. They are sending a first message, second, third, fourth, fifth, and then so there are quite a few follow-up message when you have not seen a response to the first one. So what do you see that kind of creators and then users?
Well, I mean, there's two answers to that. One is what I do, and then the other answer is what I do for my clients. They're both the same answer, but they're for different reasons. So with me, I'm constantly posting content, adding value to my network, and then occasionally I'll send out some messages and either ask for a meeting or invite them to an event or whatever. But I don't do it very often, so that when people receive it, they're like, oh, I've been seeing this guy's content for a while. I get positive responses, not from everyone, but I get enough positive responses. And then, when I'm working with a client, like a new client might come on board and only got a few hundred connections, and we're connecting with people and sending messages to set appointments. So I'm always looking at the conversion rates. I speak to guys in the US that are doing LinkedIn outreach, for as long as I have, 10 years, and they will send 3 or 4 messages. And I say, okay, well, overall, what's your conversion rate? And they say, well, 15%. Now, I'm getting 15% with one message, so I don't bother sending 3 or 4. I think it's much easier to add a new connection than it is to keep sending the old one more and more messages. Because as soon as you start sending 2 or 3 messages, you can very easily come across as salesy, and you know, I think you can get on people's nerves that way. And what you want to do is avoid doing that, because they might not be responding now, but in 6 months' time, maybe they've consumed some of your content, or maybe they have a need. You want them to be able to contact you then. So you don't want to annoy anyone. So my approach, you know, it's not for everyone, is just to send the one message. Yeah, sure, if you want to contact them again in 6 months, that's fine, but I don't think you should be sending a sequence.
And the silent majority, which is 99%, who is not producing content or publishing content, the silent majority is probably observing a lot, and they have a different variety of news feeds. What are the tips and tricks for the majority to clean the feed, to make sure that the feed is what they want, because it'll keep on, digressing. So you might be observing your feed, something showing up again and again, or you might unfollow. But what are the tips and tricks to clean your feed, to be minimalistic and to be appropriate for your consumption?
One of the biggest things is the notification bell on people's profile. So, you know, for me, like, I got so many people in my news feed, I want to be seeing my clients' content. So I will go onto their profile, hit the notification bell. That means that I always get alerted when they post. So I think that's really important. If you've got a creator, you enjoy watching their content, make sure you go to their profile, hit the bell, turn the notifications on. If you start seeing content in your feed that you don't like, you can just hit the 3 dots and say, I'm not interested in this, and you'll see less of it. If you see content that you like, post a comment. That's telling LinkedIn that you're interested in that kind of stuff, and it will show you more content like that. Trading the feed is really important. I spend a lot of time thinking about that and doing that. And it even means you're going to get more relevant ads. You know, we're going to get ads anyway. You want to get relevant ones, I think.
Can you tell a bit more on the specific strategies you would use for organizations who are in the not-for-profits and charity space, which don't have a so-called, a product to sell, but there is a bit more of different objective to publish content. So for that consumer segment, or for that sector, what kind of content is relevant? What kind of company page or LinkedIn page is more worthwhile having?
Well, I think the first thing is you've got to get the team on board. Like employee advocacy is really important, and that just comes with education. To do some training or something like that. And then, I mean, storytelling's a big part of what does well on LinkedIn, and I think that sort of the not-for-profit sector has a big opportunity to share a lot of stories. So I think they should be thinking about posting regular content that shares stories about what they're doing, and showing the activity that they're up to, because that'll attract an audience. Audiences are attracted to momentum. So constantly sharing stories about what the company's up to, what you guys are involved in, and sharing stories about the journey along the way is the best approach.
Could you, I want to change the angle of conversation here. I want to get your views. You've been a father for almost 2 years plus now. So what's that journey for you? And then talk more on that what are the good and the bad, and in between. Just share more of that.
Where do I start? I mean, it's been the best thing that's happened to me, and the most challenging at the same time. She has definitely forced me to take a good hard look at myself and grow up quite a lot. But it's been a blessing, and I think fatherhood's one of the best things that you could possibly do. Brooklyn's been diagnosed with cerebral palsy, which means she's got some learning difficulties with walking and talking. But she's a very intelligent child. She's going to have challenges in those two areas, and she's extremely happy. So, when we first got the news, it was quite confronting. But it's hard to stay too upset when she's waking up with a big smile on her face every morning. So I've learned a lot from her, and she's been very inspiring for me.
If I can, cerebral palsy is a big word, and it's confronting, and you might have read through a lot of knowledge, and you would have met a lot of people, and that diagnosis process is a bit more hard hitting. How has the learning curve of having empathy for people with disabilities and beyond, probably if you don't have any exposure with people with disabilities in the past? Yeah,
it's been a big eye-opening experience. It's a world I didn't know a lot about before. And some of the most amazing people that I've come across now have disabilities, and I wish I took a lot more notice before. Yeah. I think you are more sensitive now. Now you can understand and pick up cues, and you can understand more and empathize more. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm also a father, but I just wanted to get your view as well. As a father, when you use the word fatherhood, and that's priceless. You can't put a tag on it. How does you growing up, the way you grew up in your family, supported you to play a role of a father, or the father you aspire to be, or the father you are? How has that your life journey impacted that? Oh, that's a big question, right? Look, it's still early days with my journey, but one of the big things that impacted my life is I went to boarding school when I was 10 years old. There was positives, and there was also some real tough times that came from it, being away from my parents. So the biggest thing for me, that I took away from my childhood that I'm trying to apply with, in these very early days is just to be there, be around. I'm around to give her a bath every evening and put her to bed, and that's the main thing that I've been thinking about, is just to be there. And I'm learning every day, and it's still early days, but I think at the moment, I'm hitting my goal in terms of
That's good.
Being there every day and being around, and having that close relationship.
What are the skills you have learned? At this age, what are the skills you have learned? What do you think is the best you are a superstar at? Of all, changing nappies or bathing her, putting to bed, or singing or dancing. What's your superstar?
I think it's tough because you're up and down, right? Sometimes you're really good, sometimes you get it wrong. I think I think with the diagnosis, to be honest, like there are times, especially when we first got the news, where everyone's feeling a bit down. My partner, can get quite upset sometimes, and I think it's important, no matter what challenges you're going through, to have fun as a family. And so sometimes just pulling everyone out of that environment and going out to see the animals at the Cuddly Animal Farm, or going down to Hillary's and playing on the beach, it can be as simple as that. Just creating that environment so everyone can forget about their struggles and just have some fun, I think is something that I bring to the table. I've got to give credit where credit's due, and my partner's, been fantastic. But sometimes I can bring a little bit of lightheartedness to situations.
Which is good, which is relevant, which is important. And I still want to further pursue the father story with you. So my question is, where do you see the role of the changing role of parents.
Yeah.
It was not just mother doing the majority of the caring, but role of fathers,
right,
being evolving in this ever evolving.
It's a very good
changing
point,
period.
It's very different these days. Yeah.
And then how you see yourself as father adapting to the changing, psyches and culture and behaviors and social structures, all of that.
Yep. Well, yeah, it's interesting because my dad, when it was a very different time when I was growing up, the dad would go to work and the mum would kind of look after the kids, whereas now, we're both expected to do it all.
Yeah.
So it's about just working as a team with your partner and. But yeah, I change lots of nappies and I wake up during the night and I do lots of bottles and all that sort of stuff. So it's just about finding the balance and communicating, I guess, and working as a team. We're not always getting it right, I can tell you that right now. We get made a lot of mistakes.
That's what happens.
But we're doing our best.
That's what happens, And it's an organic curve. There is no manual giving to you. So that this is how you go. No. And every child is different.
That's right.
And then you can't use this tool here and this will work on that one.
Yeah.
And parents with multiple kids will tell you that, this child was very different than that one. So that things which work on one might not work on the other one.
Yep.
On the idea of coming back to marketing, with a good break on fatherhood, what do you think in terms of the broad spectrum of professional organizations, they have the tools they have to market themselves and then present themselves? What are the better tools among the options they have in terms of social media? And then if you have to rank the social media platforms from a point of view of an organization, a B2B, and then if you rank them, which platform do you go first and then second and then third?
Yeah. Look, I think the biggest thing at the moment that organizations need to be thinking of is AI. Goldman Sachs said that in the next 5 years, 300 million jobs will be lost to AI. I think that's a very conservative number. The direction that it's heading, it's going to be replacing a lot of jobs. So I think, getting up to speed on AI, which just means getting familiar with using some of the tools that are out there, like ChatGPT, getting familiar with how to talk to AI and communicate with it, it's going to be very important. Because if you ignore it, you're going to probably be replaced. There's a lot of jobs that are going to be replaced. I mean, there's not much that AI can't do apart from interpersonal relationships these days. And so the direction it's heading, I think it's the most important thing for business people to be aware of. So I would be really focusing on AI tools and implementing, integrating that with what you're doing. Obviously, ChatGPT is a big one. I mean, in marketing, we use Opus Clip for editing videos. That's really good. There's a bunch of LinkedIn-specific ones which are great. Magic Post is one I use. I got CRMs that have AI involved in them and stuff like that. And then I guess on the other side is just looking at analytics and just analysing what's working and what's not, because it's always changing. But those are the things I'd be thinking about.
Okay. And the concluding question for me is, how do you crack the code with LinkedIn? How do you crack the algorithm? How do you get onto it and be good? Yeah.
Look, there's a lot to think about. Your profile's obviously the foundation, right? That's the conversion point. If your profile's not doing its job of explaining what you do in customer-centric language and with social proof on it, then anything you do on LinkedIn is not going to work. So that's the first thing, and that's where you talk about yourself and like what your benefits are and how people can contact you and explain a bit about your services. Don't do it in your content. Don't do it in the private messages, right? But grow your network. Have a really targeted network. It's very important. Most people make the mistake of just being reactive and accepting connection requests from whoever sends them invites, which means that their network is mainly people trying to sell them stuff and recruiters. Be proactive. If you want to target guys in financial services, invite them to join your network. So have a great profile, good quality network, and then, you know, start sharing relevant content, and you'll soon find out what content works and what doesn't. But you've got to just be active. That's the only way you're going to find out what works, is to start posting content regularly, be active, and use LinkedIn's private messaging to take conversations offline. If you do all of those things, you'll get some value out of LinkedIn, and you'll soon find out, you know, where the opportunities are.
Lovely. Thank you.
My pleasure.